Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of my in-depth review of the new Ork Codex, now for pre-order. I decided I'm going to start doing something a little different with my Codex reviews. I'm going to do a second video intentionally with the Stratagems and Relics. Some stuff I couldn't get into in my previous video. What I intentionally did was I held back filming until after my Codex review was released, and that way I can look at the discussion. In fact, there's a great discussion going on in my first video, and I can start addressing it in this one. So this is going to be Stratagems, Relics, Errors and Omissions, we're going to call it. And I'm going to do that because obviously I make mistakes. None of my reviews are perfect, and I go over as much information as I can. You know, in the hour, I did miss some things. I made some mistakes, or I made some mistakes, and I will gladly admit where I do. So there's a rule. A second part of for clan cultures. So we'll start off with my errors and omissions. For clan cultures, they don't apply to squads entirely composed of Gretchen. And so, once again, squads that are entirely composed of Gretchen would include, of course, Gretchen, Killicans, which I did make that mistake when filming my battle reports, and I will address it beforehand, so they don't get clan cultures, and mech guns, right? Because mech guns, Killicans, I would assume Grot tanks, and Gretchen, because they're entirely composed of Gretchen, with the keyword Gretchen. Unfortunately, they don't. They still get the clan special rule, but they don't get the clan cultures because they're entirely composed of Gretchen. So mech guns are still going to be pretty sweet. I still think they're going to be pretty heavily taken, but you don't get the clan cultures of like reroll ones to hit. Neither with Killicans. That's the one I did make a mistake on in my battle reports. I didn't bring any Gretchen yet, or Grot tanks yet. So that was probably the biggest mistake that I made in my Codex review, mentioning. I did make an omission. I was, when I was going over the clan cultures, I did omit something by accident on my favorite clan, which is Death Skulls. Death Skulls have, so this is the exact wording for Death Skulls. Models with this culture have a 6-weapon vulnerable save. In addition, you can reroll a single hit roll, a single wound roll, and a single damage roll for each unit with this culture each time it shoots or fights. And that is actually a very potentially powerful rule. But what it does apply to, obviously, it really is nice that you get to one reroll a hit, one reroll a wound, and one reroll damage roll, right? That's pretty sweet in various circumstances. So with a Big Mac with shock attack gun, with a squad of, again, a Morkanaut, a Gorkanaut, the new Dragsta, anything that has a really important component, squad of Knob Bikers, War Boss, it can really come into play. It can. In a squad of boys, it'll be nice, you know, reroll one dice, you know. Boys, it really won't affect, other than they get the nice 6-up invulnerable save, and as I said, any infantry gains objective secured. So, like a squad of Ludas can hold an objective with objective secured. That is pretty cool. And once again, as I mentioned, Grots do not gain access to clan cultures. So, cool. And also, Ork Stratagems cannot be applied to Killicans unless it specifically mentions Gretchen. Or sorry, anything that's entirely opposed to Gretchen, unless the stratagem implicitly mentions Gretchen. So that's the first one. Now, the next part I wanted to talk about is I did mention all the units that were removed from the Codex. And then I did say in my video that you can still use the units from the indices. And this caused a bit of a discussion. So yes, basically most tournaments, most friendly players will allow you to use index information if it was removed from the Codex. That is true. I personally prefer to use the codices in their entirety. I'll try it with index units like War Boss on Bike, because until I get the, you know, the new HQ, it's going to drive my army. It could. Now in my battle reports, I tried a Big Mac with shock attack gun in both battle reports. But you could do it. It's allowed in most tournaments, in most settings. You can use index units. That being said, I'm of the mentality that GW removed these units from the Codex for a reason. And there's nothing preventing them from, like, a chapter approved saying that you can no longer use indexed units, which really angers some people, but it would force you to use only the models in the Codex, because otherwise we come into the situation where one of the problems in previous versions of Warhammer 40k was that information was in so many places. It was in White Dwarfs, it was in, you know, the main codex, it was in supplements, it was in this supplement, it was in this mentioning, it was this FAQ, and the information was just overwhelming on the amount of things you had to keep track of to bring into your army, and people were, of course, using it to make the cheesiest cheese that ever cheesed in the competitive circuit, and it was just really hard to keep track of. And I do feel GW is trying to get away from that. I could be wrong. Talk about that in discussion below. And so it's totally allowed. You can use units that are in the indices, so Warboss on bike, Painboy on bike, Big Mech on bike. You know, you can use those. Big Mech with custom force field, if they're in the index. That being said, I would not be shocked if one day they say, just like GW created the rule of 3 for competitive play, they might say in competitive play you can only use models specifically in codices and not in indices. You never know. For the armies that have it available. So as I said, those are my big mistakes so far that I've noticed. I did forget that Gretchen do not have clan cultures, so Killicans don't have clan cultures, and like Gretchen, Grot tanks, Big Mech, mech guns, no. Yeah, I think it might be a discussion because mech guns are entirely composed of Grot gunners, but there's a model that's not a Grot, but it's okay. I think if they don't get the rules, I did forget to omit the Death Skulls, and I think Death Skulls are more powerful. I've been kind of playtesting and thinking and talking to people, and I do think it's more powerful than I initially suspected. I will definitely try them out in the near future. The reroll a single dice could come into play. It's nice. I still really like Bad Moon's reroll ones to hit the shooting phase if you're going with an all-shooty army, because the amount of ones that you'll produce is probably a lot more likely than a single dice per squad per turn. But that being said, you also get to reroll a single wound roll and a single damage roll, which is very nice because that way you don't need to spend command points to do that. And it's going to save things. So I'll definitely try them out. I'm going to try a combination of lists over the next, couple months. Have some fun. Orks are my favorite army to play. They really are, and I'm going to try out a bunch of combinations and see how they fare. It looks like I probably need to get a new. Well, I actually have an old shock attack gun I found. He's from 2nd gen, so I'll probably use him. I'll paint him up in the near future and use him in battle reports. And yeah, so that'll be cool. So I have 2 shock attack gun Big Mechs. I'll try some new guys, and that's it. So that's the start of my video. Now let's get to the stratagems. Now the stratagems can really help your army. That being said, I'm the type of person who uses it 90% of the time for rerolls. But let's talk about the stratagems, and we'll talk about the relics, because I didn't go into either of those in my last video. So for 1 CP, mob up. If you have a squad of 10 or more and a squad of 10 or less, you can merge them. For 1 CP at the end of your movement phase, providing that they're within 2 inches of each other, which I believe is smaller than the previous version. That's okay. You put them together in coherency, you can merge them. It's pretty fun. I really liked that one, and I did a tournament recently where I intentionally ran a squad of 10 boys, and if I didn't need them for a specific like hiding somewhere, I just merged them into a squad of 30. So I had a squad of 40 boys, leadership 40, with 2 buried claws. It's pretty scary. 1 CP Meta Squig. Use the stratagem at the end of movement phase. Select a clan character from your army that is within 3 inches of a friendly clan Painboy. That selected model immediately regains D3 lost wounds. That's cool. 1 CP, Snega Grapple. Use a stratagem when a death kill a war trike. Model from your army falls back in the movement phase. Before the model moves, select an enemy unit within 1 inch and roll a d6 on a 2-up. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, so it kind of stabs you as you run away. Cool. Number 1 1 CP Warped. This is what I mentioned. You can spend 1 command point before the start of the battle, and you can upgrade a Weird Boy to Warped, and that way he knows 2 psychic powers and can cast 2 psychic powers during the psychic phase. 2 CP Ramming Speed. Use a stratagem in your charge phase. Select an Ork vehicle unit from your army. You can roll 3d6 when making a charge move with that unit this phase. In addition, if the unit finishes a charge move this phase, select an enemy unit within 1 inches, roll d6 on 2 of that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So this is going to be pretty awesome. Now once again, you cannot use this stratagem on Killicans because it doesn't implicitly mention Gretchen. But you can use it on Morkanauts, Gorkanauts, Death Dreads, the new War Trike. It's pretty awesome. And so it is pretty... Oh, Bikers. Yeah. Right? I'm assuming... let me see. Do Biker Boys and War Bikes have vehicle? They might not, but let's see. That would be awesome because not Bikers? No, they don't. So, okay. So, Cans, Death Dreads. Not Cans, sorry. Death Dreads, Morkanaut, Gorkanaut. The new vehicles for 2 command points. And also D3 mortal wounds. Nice way. Hit your opponent and then hit him again. Board in action, 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the end of your fight phase. Select an enemy vehicle unit that cannot fly and is within 1 inch of a truck or battle wagon, so very circumstantial. Model from your army. Any models embarked within that truck or battle wagon can make a single attack with one of their melee weapons against their enemy unit. For 1 CP, pretty cool. Extra Gubbins. This is the 1 CP/3 CP that every army seems to have access to. You can spend 1 CP before the battle to... you can have 1 extra shiny Gubbins, which is the Relics, for 1 CP, and for 3 CP you can have 2 extra shiny Gubbins. Of course, they have to go to different characters and have to be different things. 3 CPs. Get stuck in, lads. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when it is your turn to select a unit to fight, or at the end of the fight phase. Select an Ork infantry unit from your army that has already fought once, and it can fight a second time. Cool, right? It's very expensive, 3 command points, so it's going to be very circumstantial to use, but it can be pretty nasty. Again, non-bikers would be hilarious. Are they considered infantry? Otherwise, a squad of boys that you've merged up to a squad of 40. It'd be kind of fun. Yeah. Let's see here. No, they're not infantry. So knobs, boys. Cool. For 2 CP, Orks is never beaten. Use the stratagem when an Ork character model from your army is slain. That model is not removed from the battlefield as normal and can immediately either shoot as if it were the shooting phase or fight as if it were the fight phase. The slain model is then removed from the battlefield. Once again, pretty cool. I would use that on a Big Mech with custom force field if he's killed. War Boss, Guskull Draka. Pretty cool stuff. So if he kills, he can still get his fights in, his attacks in. 3 CP, Force Field Projecta. This one's going to be a little tougher to use. Use a stratagem at the start of a battle round. Select a Big Mech model from your army. Until the start of the next battle round, increase the range of that model's custom force field ability to 18 inches. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So this is a turn 1. This is really a turn 1 or turn 2 stratagem, I feel. For 3 CP, you got to go all out. So then, if you have a Big Mech with custom force field, in the center of your army, it expands to 18 inches and everything has a 5-up invulnerable save against shooting. That is huge. It's a pretty expensive stratagem, but it can really save your army, especially if you're doing like a walker list. It could save a lot of boys from shooting if you're facing a shooting army. Tau, Eldar, Astra Militarum, Dark Eldar. It's cool. It's expensive, but it'll really work. Billowing Exhaust Clouds, 1 CP stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select a Speed Freaks unit from your army. Until the start of the next turn, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by ranged weapons against that unit. So once again, non-bikers, a vehicle. It's pretty cool. You get to keep them, help keep them alive. -1 to hit can really help keep your boys alive. It's cool. 1 CP, it's pretty cheap to do. 2 CP, more DACA. I've used this one before. But use stratagem before an Ork unit from your army shoots in the shooting phase. Until the end of the phase, that unit's DACA ability triggers on unmodified hit rolls of 5 or 6 instead of a 6. This is one that I regret not using with Killicans. But again, you can't because, it doesn't say Gretchen. I made a mistake, so it's okay. So I'm not regretting the Killicans. So, in this particular one, I would use it with a Morkanaut, a Gorkanaut, Ludas, boys with Shootas. It's nasty, so every 5 or 6 triggers a new shot. Once again, combining that with reroll 1s, that is my favorite stratagem that the boys have access to, other than maybe Mob Up for a CP. I really, really like more DACA. That seems like something I'd use every turn if I had the command points. Unfortunately, my list so far have been really command point small, but I'm guessing you could probably get some crazy amounts of command points by running like, 2 battalions with 6 squads of boys. Total. Ard boys. This is a cool one too. So for 2 command points you can spend before the start of the game, select a boys unit, excluding Scar Boys. From your army, that unit gains the Ard boys keyword, and save characters to models is changed to a 5-up. So you can have a squad of boys running around with 5-up armor saves. Once again, combine that with the culture, so you can have a 5-up armor, 6-up invul, 5-up armor, 6-up feel no pain. That unit can only use Mob Up stratagem to merge with other Ard boys. Makes sense. Teleporter. This one's also fun. Once again, you gotta have a lot of command points to combine these things, but it's pretty cool. Use a stratagem during deployment. You can set up an Ork unit from your army with a power rating of 20 or less, which is pretty much any model in this codex, other than if you're running like a giant squad of Knob Bikers or something. Gustle Thrak is 12. So let's go to the heavies. That's usually where all the points were, unless you're running, like I said, giant squads of Knob Bikers. There is nothing in here 20 or everything in here minus the Stompa. On a teleporter pad, instead of placing on battlefield, units on a teleporter pad can teleport down at the end of the movement phase. Set up them anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Once again, of course, if it's turn 1, it has to be in your deployment zone. Use a stratagem on a transport. All units embarked and inside it remain. So when it is set up in the teleporter, so you can do a battle wagon, for example. That's pretty cool. For 2 CP, it's very cool. It's circumstantial, but you can drop in, let's say, turn 2. You drop in a Gorkanaut. Fire all, so you spend 2 command points to drop in the Gorkanaut, turn 2. You spend 2 command points to give more DACA. And then you can spend, the 2 command points to make it jump in a 3d6. Kind of fun. Extra Sick Bombs, 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select an Ork infantry unit from your army. Up to 10 models in that unit can fire a grenade weapon in that phase instead of 1. It's basically the equivalent of like the Astra Militarum have a version of that too. 1 CP, Grot Shields, Ork Stratagem. So this is for a clan infantry model, excluding units entirely comprised of Gretchen models. So the fight, interesting. So use stratagem when use stratagem after a clan infantry unit from your army, excluding units comprised entirely of Gretchen models. Let me double check what I was saying earlier. I think it says that implicitly. It does. Units entirely composed of Gretchen cannot benefit from clan culture. In addition, Ork stratagems can only be used on these units if the stratagem explicitly states so. Example, the Grot Shield stratagem. Yeah. Use the stratagem after a clan infantry unit from your army has been hit by a ranged weapon. Until the end of the phase, you can roll a d6 each time a model from that unit loses a wound if there's a friendly unit comprised entirely of Gretchen infantry models within 6 inches of it. And the Gretchen unit is closer to the attacking model than the target, so very circumstantial. On a 2-up, the original model does not lose a wound, but 1 model of the Gretchen unit is slain. Otherwise, the model loses the wound as normal. So that's cool. And finally, Loot It, 1 CP. Use a stratagem when vehicle unit is destroyed within 3 inches of an Ork infantry unit from your army. Improve the save characteristics of that infantry unit by 1. That's awesome. A unit can only be affected by the stratagem once per battle, and once affected, cannot be selected for the Mob Up stratagem. Makes sense. If the stratagem is used on Luda's unit from your army, roll a d6. On a 4-up, the CP spent to use the stratagem is immediately refunded. Cool. Long Uncontrollable Bursts, 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select an Ork vehicle unit from your army that can fly. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to hit rolls for shooting attacks made by this unit that target enemy units that can fly. 3 CP, Unstoppable Green Tide. Use Stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select a unit of boys from your army that has less than half its starting number of models and remove it from the battlefield. You can then set it up wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from any enemy models at its full starting strength. You cannot select a unit for the stratagem that has been merged via the mob up stratagem. You can only use the stratagem once per battle. Cool. Now I wonder if it costs like reserve points. I hope not. But that's pretty cool. You heal a squad up to full strength. Oops. Kick the camera. For 3 CP. Cool. Has to be boys. 3 CP Monster Hunters. Use the stratagem at the start of any phase. Select an enemy model with a wounds characteristic of 10 or more. Add 1 to wound rules for attacks made by snakebite units from his army that target that model at the end of the phase. 3 CP. 1 CP, Drive-by Crumpen. Use the stratagem at the end of a movement at the end of the shooting phase. Select an Evil Sun Speed Freaks unit from your army. That unit can immediately make a move as if it were the movement phase but cannot charge this turn. Wreckers, 2 CP. Use the stratagem at the start of any phase. Select a Death Skulls unit from your army. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by this unit that target enemy vehicle units until the end of the phase. So that's cool. Showing Off, 2 CP. It's use stratagem immediately after resolving a shooting attack with a Bad Wounds infantry unit from your army. That unit can shoot all its weapons a second time. That's amazing. Ludas, it's going to be amazing. Ludas are all. Use stratagem can only be used once per phase. Makes sense. Dead Sneaky, 1/2 CP. Use this stratagem during deployment. You can spend 1 CP, select a Blood Axe infantry unit from your army that has a power rating of 8 or less, and set it up in hiding and place it instead of placing on the battlefield. If you spend 2 CP, select a Black Axe infantry unit that has a power rating of 9 or more instead. At the end of any movement phase, that you can emerge from hiding, set up anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. So cool. 3 CP, Kill Cruiser Broadside. Use the stratagem at the start of any of your shooting phase. Select up to D3 points on the battlefield, each more than 6 inches away from the others, and visible to a freebooters unit from your army. Roll D6 for each unit, friend or foe within 3 inches of any of those points. Subtract 1 from the result if the unit being rolled for is a character. On a 5-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. So it's like lightning. And finally, 1. Scarboys. This is for Goths, and this is going to be really powerful. Use the stratagem before battle. Select a Goth Boys unit, excluding Ard Boys from your army. That unit gains the Scarboys keyword, and the strength characteristic of models in that unit is changed to 5. That unit can only mob up stratagem to merge with other units of Scarboys. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, this is where a lot of the discussion has been taking place, is that you can only use 1 stratagem of the same type per phase, but doesn't apply while building your army. So you can create 3 squads of boys, each giving them, am I correct? Discuss this in the discussion in the section down below. You can make them all Scarboys for 3 CPs, and therefore they're all strength 5. That's pretty nasty, right? Pretty nasty stuff. And then Goths officially, the Goth rule, you can give them, for every attack roll of 6 in the melee phase, generates an additional attack. So, cool. That is the stratagems. Now let's go to the gubbins. Now, I'm not really utterly impressed with the gubbins on all. There's some good ones, The Dead Shiny Shuda. Model with custom Shuda only. The Dead Shiny Shuda replaces the bearer's custom Shuda and is the following profile. Range 18 inches, Assault 12, Strength 4, AP -1, D1. Cool. Head Wappa's Kill Choppa, which is of course from the previous version, the index. So Head Wappa's Kill Choppa replaces a bear's Big Choppa and has the following profile. Strength melee, range melee, type melee. Strength +2, AP -2, D2. And additional wound rolls of 6 inflict 2 mortal wounds instead of any normal damage. This is my favorite one, Super Cyborg Body. Each time the bearer loses a wound, roll a d6. On a 5-up, that wound is not lost. You cannot make the Doc's Tools rolls for this model if you do so. That's my favorite one by far. It makes your Warlord have a 5-up feel no pain. That's huge. Keeps your guys alive. To Kill a Claw. Model with a Power Claw only. To Kill a Claw replaces the bearer's Power Claw and has the following profile. To Kill a Claw is Strength ×2, AP -3, 3 instead of DD3. So 3 damage as opposed to D3 damage. And following, you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made with this weapon, and it does not count as -1 to hit. So if you have a war boss on a bike from the index, feel free to take him, or a war boss in general, this may be the thing you want to take. I would personally then spend another command point before the battle, give him a 5, those has to be a different model, so you can give one model Super Cyborg Body and him the Crazy Claw. So it's not -1 to hit, and it's 3 damage as opposed to D3, and you can reroll wound rolls for attacks with this weapon. It's pretty cool. Scorched Git Bones. Psyker only, you can add 1 to psychic tests taken by the bearer when manifesting psychic power from the power of the Raw discipline. Cool. Git Stoppa Shells. Models with custom Shooter, Combi Shooter, Scorcher, or Combi weapon with rocket launch only. Add 1 to the strength and damage characteristics of the weapon's Shooter or custom Shooter profile. In addition, improve the AP of the weapon's Shooter or custom Shooter profile by 1. The Lucky Stick. The Lucky Stick. Goth model only. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Goth character models while they're within 6 inches of the bearer in the fight phase. In addition, you can reroll hit and wound rolls for attacks made by the bearer in the fight phase. So once again, the Lucky Stick on a war boss would be pretty cool. Morgog's Finken Cap. Blood Axe model only. If the bearer is your warlord, you can generate a second warlord trait for him. If the bearer is not your warlord, generate a warlord trait for them. Note that the bearer is only regarded as your warlord for the purposes of the warlord trait. The same warlord trait cannot be generated for both the bearer and your warlord. Res Mecha's Redder Armor. Evil Sun's model only. Add 1 to the move characteristic of the transport while the bearer is embarked within it. In addition, if the bearer is embarked, then at the start of the movement phase, roll d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of the transport the bearer is embarked within. On a 4-up, that unit suffers a d3 mortal wounds. Cool. Next we have the Gobshot Thunderbus. Bad Moon's model with custom Shooter. Combi weapon or Scorcher or Combi weapon with a rocket launch only. The Gobshot Thunderbus replaces the bearer's custom Shooter or Shooter profile with the following profile. Range 12 inches, heavy 2d6, strength 5, AP -1, D1, and it automatically hits its target. Cool. It's an awesome flamer. 2d6 flamer. The Fixer Uppers, Death Skull units only. I'm happy about this one. The bearer gains the Big Mechaniac ability. If the bearer already has a Big Mechaniac ability, the target of the ability regains 3 lost wounds of D3. So basically, he can heal. It's cool. He can heal stuff, and he can heal vehicles. And if he already has that ability, he heals 3 instead of D3. Brog's Buzz Bomb. Snake Bite models only. Brog's Buzz Bomb has the following profile. 6-inch range, grenade, 3d6, strength 5, AP -1, D1. This weapon can only be used once per battle and automatically hits its target. After all of its attacks have been resolved, you can immediately select another enemy unit within 6 inches of the target and resolve 2d6 attacks against it with the same weapon. And finally, the Bad Skull Banner. Freebooters model only, once per battle. At the start of the morale phase, the bearer of the Bad Skull Banner can choose to fly the flag on its boss pole. If you do so, friendly freebooters units automatically pass morale tests until the end of the phase. Cool. Keeps you guys alive. So that's it. That's my in-depth review of the new Orks Codex. Now available on pre-order, out next weekend. What do you guys think? Let's continue the discussion in the description below. But to summarize I did make a mistake. I forgot to say that Gretchen units entirely composed of Gretchen can't use stratagems, can't use clan cultures. So cans, Gretchen, mech guns, and grot tanks, out of luck. Remember, they have to be entirely composed of Gretchen, so it doesn't matter about the vehicles that have Gretchen gunners. That's okay. I forgot to mention the Death Skull's reroll 1 to hit, to wound, and damage rolls in each phase. That is pretty cool. It's circumstantial, but I like the 6-up invulnerable save. I'll try them out. I'm going to try them out. I really like the reroll 1s to hit, to be honest. I still like them, but 6-up invulnerable save is pretty nice, and the reroll 1s can be really circumstantial. Remind yourself each time, you know what? It's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome with things like a war boss with it's going to be great with a shock attack gun Big Mech, a Morkanaut in close combat, Dread in close combat. So it's gonna be cool. So that was a mistake. And yeah, I'll start with indices again. You can use index if you want. It's allowed most tournaments in most gameplay. I will probably try out some as well. I do want to try out this codex for a few rounds in its entirety as itself, because that's how GW produced it. And I would not be surprised, as I said, in the future if GW could put a kibosh on that, but that's okay. And yeah, then we went over the stratagems and the relics. What do you guys think? What do you people think out there in internet land? Let's create a discussion. I can't wait to keep playing Orks. I love playing Orks, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun. So stay tuned for more videos, stay tuned for more reviews. As always, this is brought to you by my Patreon subscribers. Link in the description below if you want to help support my videos. Stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting.